the Bengals have a massive problem on their hands. Despite getting the win on Sunday against the Cleveland Browns, the offense left much to be desired. We're going to break down why these could be issues going forward and why they need to get it fixed ASAP if they want to continue to compete for that division and ultimately playoff berth. Welcome to the jungle. This is Isaac Coffman with Bengals Digest. Happy to see you Bengals fans. And if you want to be up to date on all things Bengals, smash that subscribe down below. We are so close to 3,000 subscribers, and with your help, I know we can get there. Well, Sunday was an exciting game to say the least. It was a little close for comfort, but at the end of the day, the Bengals come out on top as the victors. And there's a lot of credit to go around of why they were able to hold on to that lead. The defense was able to step up. They were able to hold that lead 1 point. It was a missed extra point that made the difference. But one thing that is concerning, despite coming out and looking great at the beginning, the offense decided to just kind of trail off. It was a little discouraging to see. Now, respect is given to Cleveland. If there's one thing that they excel at, it's their defense. And defensive line specifically, that second half, Joe Burrow was just running for his life. They were able to apply the pressure, getting sacks 3 times in a row on one drive, backing the Bengals up against the goal. It was making me sweat. It was very nerve-wracking, to say the least. So when it comes down to that, that's concerning going forward. Overall, there was an article done by Cincy Jungle. I appreciate what they brought out. They had their 8 winners and losers from the season opening. And I tend to agree with what they were saying about who really didn't win on this game. And it was unfortunately the offense. That specifically of Zach Taylor. I'll kind of go with it. It's Joe Burrow in general. He has that slow start, it seems like, whenever he starts out. But I will kind of draw the attention back to Zach Taylor. The one thing I will knock on him, going back to last year, it just seemed like some plays, the way he was calling them at certain times, you just kind of scratch your head a little bit. So what this brought out was interesting, because it was saying that a thing that's not just the play calling, but the time management. If you notice during that game, Taylor was making them burn timeouts. There was some kind of miscommunication going on. And that's the type of thing that, okay, it's early. That's a given. But that's where preseason really helps you out. And give them credit. They did have the starters out there during preseason. It just makes you wonder, if they didn't, those reps really do add up. And communication is a part of that. The more reps you get, more you're going to see that communication improve. I feel like that's what's going to happen as the season progresses. I think they're going to get a little bit tighter when it comes to that. But it just didn't make any sense on that last drive. The Bengals needed to drain the clock. It was within 2 minutes. And the Browns still had all 3 of their timeouts. It was before the 2-minute warning. But the Bengals decided to use one of their timeouts. And it just seemed like they were lost. They didn't know what was going on in that situation. Now, the clock was already stopped, but I don't know. It was very confusing at times of what is going on with just getting everybody on the same page. It seemed like they were really hitting it at the beginning, and then whatever happened at halftime, they came back out and just looked a little out of sorts. So I do go back to this. I think that is kind of, if you're going to point out who didn't have the best of games, Zach Taylor was definitely one of those. He would be at the top of why I feel this game was closer than it really should have been. I don't know if it was still going to be a blowout, because that Cleveland defense is legit. I mean, it was tough. You could see how tough they were playing. Even the Bengals with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they were not getting a free pass. I mean, they were still able to move the ball at times, but you just see how tough that's going to be when they meet again, especially given that is going to be the last game of the season. That could be a crucial game, something to keep an eye on, because division games are always a tough give. They're not always a given. But with the Browns, I think you got to respect that defense. Despite that is kind of the loss. The Bengals offense, it just seems like, whatever the reason, they have got Joe Burrow's number. I don't know what it is. Myles Garrett, I mean, again, we can't give him enough respect. We've had several videos now talking about Myles Garrett, and this game proved why. I mean, he just wrecked on certain drives where the Bengals at least needed to drain the clock. They needed to get the ball moving, and they couldn't do it. They just could not do it with that defensive line. it was really dictating a lot of what the Browns wanted to do. It felt like they were the ones in control. And as an offense, that is like the worst case scenario. The defense has you kind of locked and having you do where you want to go. It's like they were able to make them go where they wanted to. That was the feeling I got. And that's never a good sign. When you get that feeling, we'll see what happens in their next meeting. That's all I have to say. But that was an ugly part of the game. In fact, there was a stat that came out. This is definitely the craziest stat that came out of that game. Came from Keith Jenkins on his X. He said that their 141 total yards of offense, which added from 95 passing and 46 rushing, are their fewest in 107 games under head coach Zach Taylor. Wow, that's just insane to me. I mean, this also includes the playoffs. Joe Burrow had about 113 passing yards, so you're talking 95 passing. That tells you how roughed up he got. He had those sacks. It just felt like it was a long day for Burrow. And you can say this and that. The offensive line needs to get better. I agree. I think the offensive line was shaky. Myles Garrett was just blowing past guys, and it didn't matter who it was. Even Orlando Brown, he got a sack off of him, off of that series where it was three straight sacks. So that's just ugly. You just want to say, you know what? That better be the last of it. Because if we're going to see an offense like this, regardless if it's a good defense, right? You want to be able to just have some sort of offense. This is not offense. 141 total yards of offense. That's not going to cut it. They were able to squeak by, get that win, even if it's 1 point. A win is a win. But that's concerning. That's definitely concerning for me. What are they going to do for next week and beyond? It's definitely going to have to get cleaned up. There's no getting around it. That offense, the defense picked them up. That was their game, without a doubt. And you could talk about the first quarter. I think that was their best part of the game. Honestly, I mean, they looked pretty good there. Chase Brown, love seeing him get a score rushing in that way, but I don't know. That's just makes me a little uneasy. It's one game. It's early. I go back to, again, Joe Burrow. There's just something about those first few games. It just feels like he is not as comfortable as he normally is late or maybe middle to late of the season. That's where he really starts to turn it on. So I'm not going to hold my breath and say this is the end all be all, but you can't help but when you see how ugly that really was, especially with all the stats lining up there, it just didn't feel like the offense. Kudos to the Browns. Give them respect. For whatever reason, they have figured out this offense, but it's going to be on the Bengals to figure it out when it comes time to play the Browns again. You got to come back with that counterpunch. They've got to figure this out. They were able to, again, get the win, and that's what matters at the end of the day. But going forward, you know that they're going to be watching a lot of film this week. They're going to definitely be dissecting it. I respect Burrow for how much he just really studies game film. He really takes things serious. He's able to recall different formations and things like that. But, you still got to go out there and produce. You still got to make it happen. So let's just hope this is a little blimp, a little bump in the offense, because as far as the season goes, the offense is going to be the driving force. The defense is going to hold it down at times like it did here against the Browns, but they're not always going to be able to do it. You're going to face some pretty high elite offenses in this league. And honestly, the best way to combat that is fight fire with fire. You got to come right back with them with an offense. So let's hope they get all the wrinkles ironed out. Let's see if we can get back to seeing some exciting offensive scores from Jamar, from Joe to Jamar to T. Higgins, all those guys. That's what we're really hoping for. But we want to hear from you guys. What was kind of your ugly of the game? What would you kind of point to? Again, I kind of go back to Zach Taylor, but I also can see this as being early, still knocking the rust off when it comes to Joe Burrow getting into his groove and the rest of that offense clicking together. But we want to hear from you guys. Comment below, and if you are excited for next week as well, give us a like as well to show your stripes as a Bengals fan. We appreciate each one of you, all those that are subscribed and following our videos. So make sure, again, you are also subscribed to be up to date when our new videos drop. That's going to do it for now, guys. As we say, Uday.